A brand new week of the Media Row podcast here with me, Justin Miller, sponsored by Kelly's Little Nipper and Stevens Automotive and Sales, is kicking off with a bang here on this Monday. Because for the first time ever on this show, we have some gifts that, yes, you, the listener, can win. If you just listen closely to the whole show, we're going to explain it and how you will be able to win some awesome gifts that are perfect for this Father's Day weekend. And we'll also put out social media posts, so make sure you're looking on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for that news as well. TikTok will have it out on there as well. But the best way to learn how you'll be able to win these gifts is to just tune in to this show. And today's show is going to be a fun one because, as you guys know, or actually, I don't know if I have explained this on this show. If you're someone who has listened to me since I've been just doing the Saturday morning pregame with Sean, or even when I was just the producer over at WHO with Simon Conway, you may have heard this. But in case anyone's new or forgot, I used to be the color commentator for the Iowa Barnstormers here in Des Moines, the arena football team. Loved it. Did it for 2 years. The first year was more just hanging out with Joe, doing stats. Second year was full on color commentating every home game. Loved it. Great experience. I've always enjoyed going to the Iowa Barnstormer games. And so Jeff from Kelly's Little Nipper has this great idea to involve the Iowa Barnstormers, sends me over the coach's information, and we get Dave Mogensen, the head coach of the Iowa Barnstormers, on today's show to talk about their season, kind of the ups and downs they're facing, and why they need the fans to start packing Wells Fargo and cheering on this team as they try to make a push here late in the season after kind of a really tough start. So a lot of fun involving the Iowa Barnstormers. But before we get to our coach's interview here today on the show to kick off this brand new week, need to give a shout out to Kelly's Little Nipper at 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. Kelly's Little Nipper, great food, great drinks, and even better community. Go check it out. It's a historical venue over there, perfect for outdoor, just sitting on the patio in the sun in the summer drinking, or you go inside, watch some great games on the TV, or just hang out at the bar with great company. Perfect place at 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. And Kelly's Little Nipper, they're the main reason we even have these gifts to be able to give away here today on the show. So, you know what? Before we get Coach on, let's talk about this gift. So, this weekend, Father's Day weekend, we have 2 pairs of tickets for the Iowa Barnstormers home game. It's a perfect way to get your family out there, go support the Iowa Barnstormers this Saturday. All you have to do is, and this was Jeff's idea from Kelly's Little Nipper, and I love it, send in who is the best athlete to come out of Des Moines. Any athlete, any sport, but have to be from Des Moines. Who is the best one? Shoot that over to this email at the bottom here, at mediarowpod@gmail.com. That's mediarowpod@gmail.com. And we will pick 2 winners at random, and you will be able to go and cheer on the Iowa Barnstormers at Wells Fargo Arena this Saturday for Father's Day weekend. Really excited to give away our first of hopefully many gifts now. And a huge thank you to Kelly's Little Nipper at 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines for doing that. Shoot over your favorite athlete, the best athlete to come out of the city of Des Moines to mediarowpod@gmail.com. On your way to the airport. You're at the airport right now, actually.
I am. So my son turns 5 in a couple of weeks, and we're trying to figure out when we could have a birthday party. So I stayed in Wisconsin because I live here in the off season after our game, and we had the birthday party yesterday. I kind of was anticipating getting a W and then it being a double party, but had a good birthday party, so I'm at the airport now, headed back to Des Moines today.
Is that a good way to kind of reset? Because, yeah, like you mentioned, it's been a tough start to the season.
Yeah.
And then you lose on Friday. Is that just a good way to reset, having that birthday party?
It wasn't the it wasn't the plan. You know, it was just like this
Yeah.
is the only time we could do it to have a party. You know, get our families. Our both our families live in Wisconsin, so we couldn't do it in Iowa. It'd be difficult. So, but it ended up being that. You know, the loss on Friday. Every pretty much every one of our losses outside of the Jacksonville game has just been one of those like, man, if these five plays had been different, we're 8-1 right now. You know, now we're sitting at 1-8, and everything we're doing, you know, you feel like just bang your head against the wall. But you have something like that was really good. You know, both, you know, my in-laws were there, my parents were there, my brothers were there, a lot of my son's friends from school were there. And at the end of yesterday, you're just like, you feel really good about life and how blessed you are, even though some things in your professional life aren't going as you wish they would go. You know, I still have a great family and spouse, and it was definitely very refreshing by the end of Saturday. I felt a lot better going to bed Saturday than I did going to bed. Technically, it was Saturday morning by the time I went to bed after the game on Friday, but I felt I wasn't looking for a bridge to go jump off of by Saturday night.
With arena football, and I've asked athletes with like the Iowa Cubs and the Iowa Wild this question too, but just the balancing of everything, because you are still playing a professional league, but you don't always get the, first class flights. Travel is always a little more stressful, hotels. Just how is the balancing of life as an arena football head coach?
It's you know we it is what it is in that aspect. So there's the hats you wear are much more at this level where if you're coaching in the NFL, you're the quarterbacks coach. You're just coaching the quarterbacks, right? Where at this level, you're as the head coach, also coordinating. I'm also director of player personnel. I'm also one of the leads in corporate sales, and I'm also quasi equipment manager and quasi athletic trainer a couple days a week. And there's just different things you got to do. So the balancing of that is really more. The travel is great. It's fine. We travel commercial and we fly. It is what it is. That's nothing, no problems. We're not getting our own chartered flight like an NFL team does, but so we travel. That's fine. When we travel on bus, the Green Bay trip was 7 hours, so we have a nice, pretty nice bus. It's not a standard coach bus. It's more like big recliner seats and stuff. So the travel is cool. The hotels are fine, and that aspect isn't as difficult as many may think. We're not staying in red roof inns, and we're not taking the major league bus from the movie or something like that. So it's not that bad, and the guys get their per diem, and we have team meals at restaurants and stuff at that aspect. So that isn't a huge deal. Obviously, not as lavish. We don't have lobster dinners on a chartered jet for flights, but it's definitely more than we need to be successful.
How does one become an arena football head coach? What was the process like for you for
Man,
getting the headset?
uh, the head job was applied. Actually, it came through COVID. I've been back and forth in coaching throughout there's just not a lot of money in it. So coach for a while. I always, as a coordinator, always had a full-time job on top of it. So coaching was always really difficult because I'm having a full-time job to support my family, but I'm still pursuing this passion as a coach. But as a head coach, you can't do that. So the Barnstormers was a unique opportunity to be kind of close to where I needed to be for my family. Go do it. I applied after COVID hit. I'm like, man, I gotta make a run at doing something like this if an opportunity arises. So did that. It was an extensive interview process and all that stuff. But it just was a decision. I had been in arena football. I fell into it randomly. A really crazy story about a team that fired their whole staff after like starting really poorly in an expansion year. And a friend of mine got the GM job and he had no experience. And he called me. This is 2008. He said, "Hey, you want to coach arena football?" I said, "I guess." That's how I got into it with the Milwaukee Bone Crushers of the Continental Indoor Football League. That would be like NAL, CIF level, below the NFL. And that started it, and I had some really successful spots as offensive coordinator through numerous places. Coach Corey Roberson, who's the head coach of the Green Bay Blizzard, as a player, even though he's older than me. He played for a long time. He's a year older than me. So coached him, and then I developed a relationship with him. And then when he got to the Green Bay Blizzard, he brought me into OC, and we had a lot of success. And then the year before, I was with the Barnstormers. I was with the Albany Empire in the NAL, and we won a championship there. So it just was one of those things where it was kind of a perfect storm. I was out of football for a small period, and when COVID hit, I'm like, I got to get back in. I got in with Albany. A good friend of mine, Tom Anas, was there, and the Barnstormer thing just made sense for me. And then it ultimately, obviously made sense for them to hire me. So
You bring up
long, windy road.
It feels like that's a commonality though with coaches and even players too, of like there's no direct path. You're going to have to take a bet on yourself at some point in your career when making decisions. And that's something. So when iHeart let go of a lot of people in November, I was unfortunately one of those people. And I've come to like really respect the people that bet on themselves. They're going to continue doing what they love and bet on themselves. And I hear a lot of that in your story too. So, was there a moment you bring up COVID of sitting there and being like, all right, I'm going to give it one more shot. I'm going to bet on myself. Is there a particular moment though in that time where you remember a moment like
Yeah,
that?
it really was COVID. So I had stepped away from the Blizzard. I was kind of still planning to help out the COVID year, but not as a coordinator, not full time. Took another different career move, moved out of Green Bay, was about an hour south of Green Bay, and obviously the season didn't happen, so I didn't coach at all. And then COVID just like so wild and crazy, and I was working in college dining, so I was working at a college, and then that all shut down. I got another job, but I'm like, man, this kind of makes you reevaluate what you want to do in life. So that really was the moment for me to like, I really want to make a run at football for real, like full. I always dipped my toes in. I had a lot of success, but I never, as an assistant, you don't make enough money to just, if you don't have a family or whatever, but you can't live, off your family off of, $500 or $600 a game check to coach as an assistant. It's just not doable. So went back to Albany, and that's when I was like, I really want, if there's an opportunity to dive into head coach. I've had a lot of success as a coordinator. I think, I was a head coach at a college. So I'm like, I think I can do this if I dive in. So that's what led to the Barnstormers. But it had to be unique to me, like to where I needed to be close enough to Wisconsin because of my family. So, I couldn't go apply for a job in Arizona or wherever. I couldn't stay in
Yeah.
Albany, as a full-time thing. So that's really was like a perfect storm. It was really like Quad Cities, Iowa, or Green Bay, and the only opening there because Corey Ross is entrenched and Corey Roberson are entrenched. They're successful, so it happened to be an opening with the Barnstormers. That's how I got here. I'd love to say I targeted the Barnstormers as my dream job. It just was it fit the categories that I needed, and then throughout the interview process, it just clicked really well with Julie and the front office. Like the way our minds think and our vision for a small market franchise, which is what we are. We're not a big market Phoenix or California team that has all this money and all this staff and all this stuff. It's the head coach has to wear a lot of hats, and I coming from where I came from, I've always been in spots that had to do that as well. So.
I do want to talk about your team. 1-8, lost the last five. Just you brought up how, man, there's seems like just five more plays go differently and you're 8-1. I wish I could remember the NFL head coach who said this line, but he always mentioned you would learn a line from a win, but you could learn a book from a loss. And just what are you seeing your team learning through kind of this hard process?
Yeah, the most difficult part for us is we're not losing for the same reason. And that's where it's like, okay, so we're losing a game, we do some stuff, we fix that stuff, and then something else happens. And it's kind of a threefold thing. So the first thing is the Eastern Conference in the IFL this year is insane. We have played one team with a losing record all year, and we beat them. Every other team we played is a winning record, like very good team. So that's the first part. The Eastern Conference is stacked with talented teams, and we feel like if we were in the West, we might be 5-3 right now or whatever. We'd be good. So that's the first part. And the second part is we're just young, and that's kind of our model is as a small market and small market payroll is like we're gonna have some young guys, and we just aren't quite getting it all. It's much different from college where you have to, as a pro, you don't get your cupcake first couple games from some lower level school that's going to come up and you're going to beat on them. Everybody's good. Every minute of every game counts. You have to be focused in for 60 minutes. And we can't seemingly do that against these tougher opponents for 60 minutes in all three phases. We've had moments we were up 16-3 on Green or 19-3 on Green Bay, and we've kind of let them claw back in with a couple of boneheaded things and a dropped interception and a fumble on the goal line. Next thing you know, we're like, okay, now they're winning. The Tulsa game, obviously, you're up big on Tulsa. We kind of blew it down the stretch, just not being focused in for the last 2 minutes of the game. We had been focused in for, you know, 40 whatever minutes, 60-minute game. So 57 minutes, we were focused in and playing really good football. And then we kind of lost focus the last three. And everything that Tulsa needed to have happen happened. Probably wouldn't happen again in any other scenario, but it happened that game. So, I don't didn't expect us to be 8-1. As a young team, I thought, okay, let's pull two or three of those out. At this point, maybe we're 4-4, 5-4, something in that aspect and try to go on a run, but we really dug ourselves a hole. So we're just trying to get something going and get focused for 60 minutes in every game we play. So I feel like we're kind of getting to a part of our schedule. We play, Massachusetts has only got 3 wins. We play Fishers twice. So we'll face at least a couple teams with losing records of everybody else. And we play Vegas. We didn't draw Northern Arizona or Tucson on our Western trip. We got Vegas, who's in second place in the West, in a couple of weeks. And then we still got to play Quad Cities again. So, and Jacksonville again. So we have some tough opponents, but I think, right now our goal is just to get out of the bottom, get to the second, and then get to the third. And then if something weird happens and a couple teams falter really big and maybe an 8 or 7-9 gets in the playoffs, maybe we're in the mix for that.
And then you brought up the young roster. Just as the head coach of the Iowa Barnstormers, is the roster overturn one of the hardest things to manage? Because I feel like in arena football, that has to be, you're losing guys constantly. I mean, it always felt like that was the hardest thing from an outsider's perspective for a coach to deal with.
Yeah, it's difficult. So, our guys at our level don't. I mean, they make nothing. They get the housing, they
Hmm.
get food and stuff. They get $200 a game. So it requires guys to pause their whole life and pursue a dream. And there's guys that hit it every year. There's guys. The last 3 or 4 years, there's guys in NFL camps who previously were in the IFL. So there is an end of the road for a small percentage of guys. So it's not something that's just like whatever. And it's a great experience, but it does require guys to kind of look at life and go, okay, I'm going to do this, and then reevaluate it on a year-to-year basis. So you lose a lot of guys just to be like, hey, I didn't get any calls from CFL or UFL or NFL. I'm going to go back and live life like what I was doing, use my degree, do whatever I was doing. Um, James Cahoon's playing really good at quarterback for us this year, but we wouldn't even have had him if Kyle King had come back from last year. Kyle King played really well, got hurt, and then our season kind of spiraled after he got hurt. But he was a guy who had, has a degree, has a great job, and he's like, you know what? I gave it my run. I got some film. Nobody called me. I'm good. I'm content with what I tried to do and go back to living life and building the rest of my life. So that is a difficult thing to handle because you're going to lose probably just at least 25 to 50% of your roster just for that reason every year. So it's trying to hold on to as many guys as you can. There's going to be guys who are going to go to bigger markets, try to make more money. It just is guys who have decent years. We were able to maintain a small handful of guys from last year, but really only like 2 guys we wanted left to go to other teams. The rest of them just left to not play anymore. So it wasn't like, oh, I got to get out of Iowa because it's not a good situation or Mogensen's an idiot. It was like, hey, I did what I did. I got film. Nobody called me. I'm not going to continue doing this. Let me go live my life.
It goes right back to what we were talking about earlier of the betting on yourself. And I
Yeah,
just read this article from a good buddy of mine, Tommy Birch, on the Des Moines Register about, I mean, you have a quarterback, former Cyclone, who's a
sure.
teacher during the
Yeah,
day and then is coming and playing for you. So you have cool stories like that too. What do
yeah.
you see, and like does that inspire you too when you see a guy like that coming and playing and still chasing a dream while he's still
Yeah,
being
it's
a
a
teacher?
it's a great story for Grant. So Grant was on the 18 championship team. He was the backup to Drew Powell. Started a few games when Drew was hurt, and Drew was a little stint in Canada that year. Won some games with the Barnstormers. I was with the Blizzard. We came in and he beat us as a starter that year. So really good guy. We actually connected last fall, and he's like, Coach, just so you know, I'm still in Des Moines. I've been teaching, coaching. I kind of never got rid of this itch. And he dove right after that 2018 season. He dove into a GA job at Kansas State, and he got this opportunity. He ran with that for a while, and he stopped playing. And he's just like, I never really finished that chapter. And if you need somebody when school's out as a backup, like your prototypical NFL backup, like a Chase Daniel, right? Like he's gonna wear the headset. He's gonna coach up the young quarterback. If you need him to play, he's gonna step in and play well. That's the kind of what he was looking for, and it ended up that we kind of had that need. So Grant's been awesome. He's a really great guy, phenomenal shape, coaches football, coaches track, teaches at Des Moines Christian. So some community connection there, and he's been really cool to have around.
How vital is that too when you have a roster that changes 50%, 25 to 50% of your players every year, to have a veteran who has played and won championships in the
Yeah,
IFL
yeah, he's
and
played at
knows what
super high
it's like?
level. Played in played in Power Four, Power Five at the time at Iowa State. Played at Buffalo. Played for the Barnstormers. He's an Elite 11 guy coming out of high school. Like all these accolades. He's got great stories about rooming with Jameis Winston in the E11 camp and stuff. So, and then he's also flipped gears and coached at a high level. Coached at Power Five. Coached for Des Moines Christian as a varsity coach. So he sees it from both angles now, and he's been great for the short time he's been here, and he's going to be a tremendous asset down the stretch.
I want to get into some of the positives with this team too, of a younger team who has been someone that maybe during the preseason or early part of the year, you're watching and going, man, if they could do X, Y, and Z, they could be really, really good. And they have stepped up to that challenge. Is there any names that come out to
Yeah, I
you
think
with
I
that?
think the biggest name that and fans will who follow or at least follow the league will be Jalen Bracey. He's number 5 for us. He came in. He was a big time junior college recruit, like one of the top of the nation. Went to Florida International and just had some injury issues and never really stood out. He wasn't poor, but he never really had a full season, so didn't get a lot of offers. Came in here at camp, and he's just super explosive and like, man, this guy is really good if he can figure it out. And he's done just that. So he's, I think top 5 in the league in receptions and touchdowns, and he had 90 yards Friday night. And a great dude, runs down on the kickoff team and makes a bunch of tackles, blocks on the kick return, like just does anything you ask for. I'm sure he'd play defense if we need him to play defense. So he's a guy like that. We have some standout guys in a few spots, and Keon Williams is leading the league in every receiving category. He's in his second year. James Cahoon is leading the league in passing, touchdowns and yards per game. And by the end of the year, I mean, he should be offensive rookie of the year. Stats are going to be insane as long as he stays healthy. So that's been pretty good. We got a couple guys on defense. Our nose guard Josh Ellison, another young guy, played at Oklahoma, played at Memphis, a power 4 guy, and he's been one of the best nose guards in the league all through the year. And we knew it right when he got here. It wasn't a surprise. As soon as he showed up, you're like, yeah, this guy's different. He's a different kind of player, as you would expect from a guy who started at Oklahoma. You'd expect him to be pretty good. So we have a handful of guys. It's just we have to play a little better cohesively for 60 minutes. But it's not really lack of talent because we're not getting blown out. There's not games where we're just getting killed. It's just the 60-minute thing is a struggle sometimes for young guys who aren't used to really having to play 60-minute games all the time in college.
How good is it though to feel like you're coming back home? Like I know your home is in Wisconsin, but you are
Sure.
coming back to
Yeah.
Wells Fargo to
No.
have a home game this weekend.
Yeah, playing Mass is struggling a little bit this year. They're 3-5, I think now, so they're not. Oh, they're 4-5. They won last night against Fisher, so they won a couple of the last couple of games, but they haven't been playing great. They won 30-15. Not a great, kind of ugly game last night. So we feel good about finally playing a team that's struggling a little bit like us again, and this can be one to help get us going and through the rest of the season. So being in the arena is great, and we kind of got this back and forth where we got home game, road game, home game, road game with flights. So we go to Vegas and then we come home for Jacksonville. Then we go to Massachusetts again, go to their place. So being home will be cool. We get to practice all week in the arena, which is always super beneficial as well.
You brought up because it was your son's. Did you say fifth
Fifth,
birthday
fifth
party?
birthday, yeah.
So is he getting to that age yet where he's helping you out with the studying, or is he in
Not
the
the studying,
study
but he
room
likes
with you?
hanging around practice. So we were leading up to this game. We were up in Des Moines all week. The school was finally out, so he was at practice. My 5 and 6 year old at practice, just hanging out, all week. They just love it. So they're past the point. Kids go through stages. That first like 5 years is dad's cool, but mom is everything. Right? Mom is my whole life. They have now moved to the stage where dad is like the coolest guy in the world. And I'm gonna have about a 5 year window here where I'm the coolest guy in the world until they turn into teenagers, and then I'm the biggest loser in the world. I'm not cool anymore. So, but they're in that stage now where I am the coolest guy in the world. All they want to do is be around dad. All they want to do is see dad, sit next to dad. Whatever dad's doing is the coolest thing in the world. So that's a fun part of fatherhood.
We are doing so. You know Jeff from Kelly's Little Nipper pretty well. He's
Yeah,
a good
Jeff is
sponsor.
awesome dude.
Oh, he's
Awesome
the
dude.
best. He's the best. And they've been sponsoring my podcast, and it's been an amazing partnership. And he's letting us give away Iowa Barnstormers tickets
Nice.
uh, on the show this week. And so I wanted to have you on to give fans, there's fans out there that may be sitting there going, oh, yeah, there's the Barnstormers that are playing when they're looking for something to do over the
Yeah.
weekend. So maybe just why should fans show up this weekend? Why are these tickets a
Here-
perfect get for Father's Day weekend?
Here's the biggest thing for us is what the games are exciting. Every game we played in is exciting. So we haven't won as many as we should. And I get that. And that's, a lot of that falls on my shoulders and all of it falls on the team's shoulders, right? But the games are exciting. If you're a fan of football, there's going to be some awesome stuff happening. I can't guarantee you we're going to win or we're going to lose. I don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to have some exciting plays on both sides of the ball, and you're going to walk away going, "Man, I didn't realize these guys were that good of players." That's one of the big misconceptions. The other thing is if you have young kids, young kids eat it up. If your kids are 7 or less, they have no idea that you know James Cahoon and Patrick Mahomes are the same level of dude to them. And they can walk out on the field after the game and get James Cahoon's autograph and Keon Williams or Tyler Tate and get a picture with him. Like that for those young kids, that's like gonna go on their wall till they're teenagers. They go, wait a second, what the heck's this guy doing now? I know he's selling insurance or something now, right? He's not in the NFL. But for that same thing with like talking about I'm the coolest kid in my guy in my kid's life. These guys are like primo elevator, like these man for young kids. So they love it. Our guys are great with win or lose. Our guys are great with the interactions after the game. You come right down on the field. There's always tons of giveaways and there's action and there's different games that fans are a part of and there's something for everybody at an indoor football game. It's not quite like a circus, but it's much more of a show than it is just a football game.
It was one of the coolest things. I loved when my dad would take me to games and then like being able to call them with Joe and being able to get tickets for friends and family to come and experience. It's one of the most unique sporting events out there and it's a blast. So I think everyone should try to go out there. You brought up something though that made me think of another question before I let you go because I know you are trying to get on a flight.
Yeah, I got about 5 or 6 minutes. I start bored.
Okay. Last question then, because you mentioned there's going to be some fun plays. Joe Woodley, the new head coach for the Drake football team, I talked with him and he brought up how he's played a lot of college football 25 now since that has
Okay,
come out. And he hasn't taken any plays from that. But have you? Have you been playing that and trying out new plays virtually before you try them
man.
out on the practice
I, I,
field?
I wish I wish I had that kind of time. I would love to. I do, I try to watch as much as I can, even when I'm not like sitting there watching it eating popcorn, but I'll have a game on, even on NFL Network, I'll play old games while I'm doing work and working for the team. I might have a scout tape on a tablet and a game on TV. So I'll do that. I follow a lot of different people on X, Twitter, and try to get ideas. But unfortunately, I don't even have. I think the last gaming system I had was a PS2. So
A
my
few
kids have a
years
Nintendo
behind.
Switch. My kids have a Nintendo Switch, but I don't. Outside of playing a couple games with them, I don't really get into the video games. Just hasn't been my thing. I don't have the time for it, but from what I hear, you can like create your own playbook in that thing now. So
Yeah, it's
I think
crazy.
there is some credence to like, if you could build your playbook and install it and give it to guys in the off season, they could get a better understanding of what the offense is before they even got here. So there is some credence to using that. I actually knew a coach that did that in Madden probably 10 years ago. Like he created he's a high school coach, created his whole playbook in there and guys were giving it, sharing it online. I don't know how you do that particularly, and he was doing that like 10 years ago.
That's
And I in
sick.
Wisconsin high school football, a guy that I coached in arena years ago, the Wisconsin Wolfpacks, named Brian Rachkowski. I think he's still the coach of a high school in Wisconsin. He did that like 10 years ago. He was just out of college, just finished playing for music. I'm gonna put my whole offense into this video game, and I'm gonna give it to my kids. And he did it. And I mean, he had success where he was at, so it seemingly worked.
Again, huge thank you to Coach Mogensen for hopping on the show today, talking about the Iowa Barnstormers. Try to go and see them this weekend. Try to go for free. Shoot over your favorite athlete to come out of the city of Des Moines to mediarow@gmail.com. That's mediarowpod@gmail.com. and shoot over that athlete, and we will pick out 2 winners to hopefully get the Kelly's Little Nipper tickets. A huge thank you to Kelly's Little Nipper as well for helping set up this interview. And if you do win those tickets, or even if you buy tickets, Kelly's Little Nipper, they do some tailgating outside of Wells Fargo Arena. Go try to find them and have some fun with Jeff and the crew as well. But before we wrap up today's show, need to give a shout out to Stevens Automotive and Sales. I'm actually dropping off my car later this evening to be able to get it in on Tuesday morning so that I will get an oil change. It'll be all good to go. And I can expect these main 3 things that I've been preaching on this show. So all you got to do is first go over to 5320 Northwest Beaver Drive in Johnston, Iowa. That's where you'll meet Stevens Automotive and Sales, all the great workers there. They've been around for 35 years, family owned and operated here in Iowa, and they're loyal. They're great people. 2, you're going to experience great communication. You know, it can get frustrating and stressful when you don't know what's wrong with your car. You won't have that with Stevens. They will keep you up to date as much as possible. And number 3, one of the biggest reasons why I trust Stevens with my life is because they have a no BS policy. They will always tell it to you how it is, and you will always know exactly what they repaired, what they saw that could be needing fixed here in the future, and stuff way down the road they don't even have to worry about here in the next few months, but something to just keep your mind on. So that's the great communication, no BS, and loyalty that I love and I trust my vehicle with is over at 5320 Northwest Beaver Drive in Johnston, Iowa. 35 years of family owned and operated here in Iowa. Stevens Automotive and Sales, a proud partner of the Media Row podcast, and we love that Stevens is on board with us. We know you'll love it too when you go check them out. And when you do, please let them know that Media Row sent you. So thank you to Coach. Great way to kickstart this week. We have NBA Finals talk. We have NHL talk and more coming up this week. Make sure to tune in on Wednesday. We will see you there on the Media Row podcast with me, Justin Miller.